Assalamu alaikum and welcome to an Aaj exclusive conversation with me, Sidra Iqbal. In a world often divided by borders and ideologies, the art of diplomacy is all about building bridges. Bridges of connection, of understanding, of respect and shared purpose. Canada and Pakistan have a friendship that spans over decades, but one that is not just rooted in policy, but in people. Students, creatives, entrepreneurs, artisans who are weaving a story of collaboration across the continents. And this shared belief is rooted in the fact that nations grow closer when they choose dialogue over distance, when they have that shared purpose of continuing to talk and create a greater story. Today, I have the privilege of being joined by His Excellency Tariq Ali Khan, a senior diplomat, a bridge builder, and a champion of connection, to talk about the evolving partnership between Canada and Pakistan and the wonderful opportunities that lay ahead. So let's welcome him. Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for making time for us today.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sidra. Thanks so much for having me on your program. And please do call me Tariq.
Tariq sahab, that's an honor. Please mujhe batayein कि this happens to be your first visit to Karachi since you've taken charge as the High Commissioner.
Yes, that's right.
And how have you found the city? You're visiting after ages.
It's exciting to visit Karachi at this time. Obviously, this is a mega city. It's a city with so many opportunities, particularly, of course, in business and trade. But I'm also really struck by how multicultural and plural Karachi is. It really is a microcosm of Pakistan and so many people from all over the subcontinent.
And I understand in this visit, trade and connection and meeting people for various possibilities ranked high. But please tell me, when we talk about this present chapter of Canada-Pakistan relationship, what excites you the most?
Well, what excites me the most, Sidra, really is it's the potential. We have, as you mentioned in your introduction, we have a long-standing bilateral relationship between our two countries, which is a healthy one. But we also have now over 300,000 Canadians of Pakistani origin. We are receiving at least 5,000 Pakistani students every year to Canada. So they are becoming an important contributor to our own mosaic in Canada. We see Pakistanis active, or Canadians of Pakistani origin active in politics, in academia, in business, in the professions. They've distinguished themselves, and so I think that's a really strong part of the foundation, and that's a big important part of the potential. But the potential is also there in people-to-people ties,
yes.
And also in trade. And I say that in trade because I think both of our countries have a real interest right now in trade diversification, in finding new trading partners. And for Canada, we have a number of trade priorities that we think can really work here in Pakistan.
Let's talk about the people-to-people connection. In our offline conversation, you mentioned that there are about 300,000 people of Pakistani origin currently residing in Canada. Those are the declared ones. And at any given time of the year, there are about 5,000 Pakistani students attending a variety of educational programs in Canada. What's their contribution and how is the Pakistani diaspora contributing to the Canadian society and culture?
Yeah. I mean, I think we, as Canada, of course, we're an immigrant receiving country. So every diaspora that comes in, every group that comes in from a particular country, over time, you start to see them embedded in every aspect of life. So I just mentioned some of the areas that, of course, you see Pakistani Canadians in. But let me just give you an example. People look at political representation in a country like Canada. We have at least 5 members of parliament of Pakistani origin. We have 1 federal cabinet minister of Pakistani origin. I think that says something to the country that we are, that people can come, they can immigrate, and they can distinguish themselves literally within their own lifetime in the world of politics in Canada and be representing Canadians. So that says something. I think if you look at the contributions of Pakistanis to academia, or Canadians of Pakistani origin in academia, and of course some of the professions like the medical profession, which, as you know, Pakistanis distinguish themselves in, it's pretty obvious the impact that they're making.
Right, so since you just pointed out that it's an immigrant receiving country, what are some of the challenges that new immigrants face in Canada? I mean, one of the things that is greatly spoken about at length is the harsh weather, the extreme cold. But what are some of the other challenges, and how long does it take for people to acclimatize to not just the weather, but also the culture?
Yeah. I think people who come in young, particularly the students, their adaptation curve is shorter. Their acclimatization curve is shorter, partly because young people are more adaptable. And so while the winter, of course, is a challenge, after a while you grow to love these seasonal changes and you grow to love the winter. And I do have a couple messages for students who are going at some point, if you let me on the program. But I think generally immigrants adapt well and fast. One of the reasons in Canada is we are a society which and a country whose governments have successfully promoted policies of inclusion. That no matter where you come from, you can contribute, you will be treated fairly, and it's for all of us, no matter what our origins are. And so I think, I personally think the place where that's fully realized and where people learn that is in their public schools. So Canadian public schools, no matter where you are, if you go into a classroom, they are incredibly diverse. And so that means as a child growing up in Canada, you grow up having friends from every part of the world, from Africa, the Middle East, South America, Asia, from people of European origin. And I think that's kind of what forms us, what trains us as Canadians.
You know, what really intrigues me as a student of anthropology and sociology is how brilliantly Canada has been able to integrate, because a lot of countries, when they're immigrant receivers, they try to impose a way of being and the integration happens to be one way. Like आप आने वाले को कह रहे हैं कि ये हमारा culture है, ये society है, इसमें अब आपने आके adapt होना है. But in Canada, what I see is it's a two-way interaction. And how has that changed or evolved Canada in the last decade?
Look, we have some advantages, right? सबसे पहले ये है कि हम शुरू से हम एक immigrant country हैं, आप समझें.
सही.
There's of course indigenous communities that have been there for thousands of years in Canada, and we're in a process of learning more about what that history means and what reconciliation means, as all Canadians with the indigenous communities of Canada. But successive immigrant groups that have come have basically learned how to adapt, but also learned how to make space for each other. To the point where our government realized that they need to have specific policies that enable that. But honestly, it's really about people just being respectful and making the effort to get along. And that happens at your neighborhood level on your street. It happens at your municipal level if you're using community services like the local recreation center, the swimming pool. And I think it's something that Canadians believe in.
Tariq Sahab, I'd like to focus on the trade and economy because it's a tough global world at this point in time. The realities are harsher than we expected. One of the things that's really sticking out for countries like Canada and Pakistan is how we have not really focused on diversifying the trade partners and markets over the last few years. We each have a small pool of countries that we're talking and trading with. Do you think that needs to change, that needs to evolve? And is Pakistan and Canada already exploring that?
There's no doubt that we, particularly as Canadians, are experiencing the pressure of a sudden need for economic diversification. And that was, I think that pressure was always there, quite honestly, but I think it was exacerbated by the recent tariff war that we've gotten into with our neighbor in the United States. We share the longest border between two countries, between Canada and the United States. We have billions of dollars of trade going across that border every day. But tariffs and things like that obviously put Canadian workers and Canadian businesses at risk. Particularly if they're so dependent on that one trading relationship. So we are in a process, an ambitious process of restructuring our economy and looking for more trade partners. That means building the infrastructure that will help get our critical resources, our natural resources like LNG, out to Tidewater and out to other markets that are not necessarily north-south, but can also be east and west to Europe and to Asia. So I think it's a tough time. There's really a lot of pressure right now on the labor market in Canada. Young people find a hard time getting a job these days. There is obviously rising inflation in Canada, but I think we're going to get through it. We're pretty resilient people, and I think we're going to see a much more different set of trading relationships in the next few years. And our Prime Minister and our government are actively out there building that. And me as an ambassador, it's my job to help build that as a High Commissioner. So here in Pakistan, what that means for us is finding the great potential in this market of 250 million people.
And I see a lot of collaborations are possible because there's a shared purpose. And I think that restructuring is happening in most economies of the world, including Canada and Pakistan. Now, again, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with so many areas that there is a potential for collaboration. Of course, Canada happens to be a resource-rich country, just like Pakistan, and we'd love to learn how they are managed better. When it comes to water, that's an area Pakistan needs to manage better. There's climate change, of course, and there is, of course, the agriculture, the rare earth, renewable energy. Sky's the limit. We'll talk about that right after a short break. Welcome back after the break. We are in an exclusive conversation with His Excellency Tariq Ali Khan, the High Commissioner of Canada to Pakistan. And we were talking about the potential of trade and so many areas where there's a common goal of trade diversification, exploring new markets, etc. But since a diplomat's job, real at the heart center of it is all about building bridges, let's dive into some personal experiences and some lessons as well. Tariq साहब मुझे बताएं कि आसान तो नहीं होता कि आप दुनिया के मुख्तलिफ कल्चर्स में आपको पोस्टिंग आपकी हो, वहाँ के बारे में आप सीखें, लोगों के मिजाज के बारे में, कल्चरल इन्फ्लुएंसेस भी होते हैं. तो कोई डिप्लोमेसी रिलेटेड फॉपा, कोई गलती, कोई हार्ड लेसन आपको मिला हो?
Hard lessons to खूब मिल चुका हूँ. But let me give you one. Here's a lesson. Never have your ringtone on when you go to meet a head of state. So I've had a chance to meet, you know, a number of heads of state in very formal, ceremonial kind of contexts. But the ringtone on my phone, because I'm kind of a rock and roll guy, is a Led Zeppelin ringtone. So I've been sitting there in the Royal Palace with them, shaking hands, the cameras are going, I'm greeting them, we're bowing towards them, and then off goes my Led Zeppelin ringtone on full volume.
Wow.
Because it's my mother calling me. So
and that call cannot be missed.
And it also it cannot be missed, and you can't say no, don't call me.
Yes, please.
So the only thing you can do is turn off the ringtone. So that's the lesson. Turn off the ringtone.
I think that is so important, but again, I mean, it points to the fact कि वाकई जब आप heads of state से मिल रहे होते हैं, हर जगह का protocol मुख्तलिफ होता है. Like अगर आप British royal family से मिल रहे हैं, तो there is a whole order where you bow, where you can extend your hand, how you should wait for somebody else to first make that gesture according to the hierarchy. I mean, is that too much of, is there a training that goes behind that, a protocol? Are you briefed? Do you spend a lot of time learning all of it?
That's a great question. Because I think people always wonder what happens in that world of these diplomatic events and things that you do. I think historically there was a lot more emphasis on the sort of European style manners and protocol around a meal and that kind of thing. And there's still a little bit of that continues vis-a-vis formal dinners and that sort of thing in the diplomatic world. But I think more and more countries and younger diplomats are adapting protocol in a way that kind of suits them and suits the modern age a little bit more. You can see it more in how diplomats use social media as an example. But I think it all depends. It's country specific. It's culturally specific. Some countries are much more particular on a certain protocol. You can think of Arab countries, the Gulf countries as an example. And other countries are much more casual. We come from I think the casual vein. We're a much more casual country.
Not just casual. I think you're having a lot of fun as well. Following your socials, I noticed कि आपने पिंडी में राजा बाजार भी विजिट किया है. इसके अलावा स्ट्रीट फूड को भी एक्सपेरिमेंट किया है. कराची आए तो शायद आप कायद आज़म के मज़ार पे भी आपका जाना हुआ है. एटलीस्ट आपके आज आप गए हैं. तो ये सारे एक्सपीरियंसेस एंड वन ऑफ द वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स यू सेड, मैंने आपसे पूछा और कई जब सफारतकारों से मुलाकात होती है और उन्होंने इतनी दुनिया देखी होती है तो हम पूछते हैं कि आप क्या कलेक्ट करते हैं. एंड यू वेरी यू पॉइंटेड आउट वेरी रिफ्लेक्टिवली दैट यू कलेक्ट हिस्ट्री. सो you've always had an interest in history?
Yeah, I'm a history buff, but I don't collect a lot of historical artifacts because I don't have a big house, so I can't accumulate many of these things. Otherwise, your closets are overflowing with mementos. But I like to delve into the local history of every place that I visit or that I'm posted in. I'm fascinated by the human story, but how the human story has evolved over centuries.
जी, तो आपने जब पिंडी आप गए, आपने मुर्ग छोले खाए, आपने दाल चावल को एक्सपीरियंस किया, आपका फेवरेट स्ट्रीट फूड क्या था?
तो पिंडी में मुझे बहुत पसंद आए पिंडी की माश की दाल। माश की दाल जो बनती पिंडी में और पंजाब में वैसे बड़े मज़ेदार है। और यहाँ कराची में I had the first opportunity to visit Burns Road. And that was something else. That was also a street food experience.
आपने भी माश की दाल का जिक्र किया। बहुत सारे लोग जो हमारा प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं वो शायद ये नहीं जानते कि पाकिस्तान में मिलने वाली बहुत सारी दालें दरअसल हम कनाडा से इंपोर्ट करते हैं। सो बहुत बड़ा पोटेंशियल है। और ये चेंज कैसे आया? क्योंकि मुझे लगता है सफारतकारी की दुनिया में और पॉलिसी मेकिंग की दुनिया में इस वक्त एक बड़ा अहम सवाल लोगों के लिए फूड सिक्योरिटी है। दुनिया की आबादी बढ़ रही है और जो खाने की सप्लाई है वो सिक्योर होनी चाहिए। पाकिस्तान एक आबादी के हवाले से बड़ा मुल्क है। क्या पोटेंशियल है ऑफ ट्रेड स्पेसिफिकली व्हेन इट कम्स टू एग्रीकल्चर, फूड रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट्स बिटवीन कनाडा एंड पाकिस्तान?
आपने दाल और चने के जिक्र किए। We are an agricultural superpower, if you will. We have, as you can imagine, given the size of our country, large agriculture producing areas. Almost every province we have is an agricultural producer. Lentils, pulses, soybean. These are big. We are a dryland crop producer also. So these are important products that come from our provinces of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Pakistan is a big export market for us. So on any given year, the dal or the chana that you're eating, a large portion of that could have been grown in our fields in the prairies. Another really important area is canola. So canola seed. This year we are exporting literally hundreds of thousands of metric tons of canola seed to Pakistan. I had the pleasure of accompanying the All Pakistan Solvent Extractors Association to Port Qasim a couple of days ago. And it was amazing to see how this group of what are essentially edible oil and oil seed importers, how they can take hundreds and thousands of tons. They can crush that seed into edible oil and then use the husk for animal feed to feed the livestock industry, and basically distribute that all over the country. So this year is a big success story for Canada and Pakistan just in terms of canola alone. But we have a lot of potential to grow both the importing of those commodities, which we want to always be part of, but also start to take a look at value-added agri-food and agri-processing. That's
where I wanted to build up. When you're talking about value addition, what do you think is the state of manufacturing industrial units in Pakistan? Yes, Canada is exporting the canola seed, but manufacturing has been sort of delayed. We had the, initially there used to be the electricity used to be the problem कि energy इतनी नहीं है कि units चल सकें. Right now, again, the same economic pressures. इस वक्त कहा जाता है कि industrialization, industries and manufacturing पाकिस्तान की 25% आबादी को एम्प्लॉय करती है. इसमें कितना ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल है तारिक साहब?
I think there's a massive growth potential for Pakistan. You, like Canada, are a food producer and a food exporter. Typically what we see, I haven't had a chance to sort of study the Pakistan experience up close yet, and I'm hoping to be in Punjab very soon and to meet some of the people involved in agri-food and agri-processing. But I would say typically there's always the issue of land and how land is organized, distributed, companies having access to that land, farmers having access to that land. Of course, the water resource is really, really important. And Pakistan is a country that has boom and bust in terms of water availability. And then there's the issue of technology and how technologies can reduce inefficiencies and wastage, whether it's in agriculture or in livestock production, and how they can raise the quality and raise it to a higher level of export quality, which is going to bring more revenue for the farmer.
Absolutely. And I think same is true for when it comes to mining, because again, just like agriculture, Canada is a superpower when it comes to mining. You, of course, have lithium and cobalt and rare earth. Pakistan also has potential. So is there a synergy which is brewing, which has already been sort of explored between the two countries?
I think it's early days, but there is definitely something interesting happening in mining. As you mentioned, we are if not probably the largest hard rock mining country in the world. We have decades of experience in mining. I think almost half of the world's mining companies are actually registered on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We have experience in the surveying side, the exploration side, the extraction side, and the processing side. Beyond the critical minerals that you had mentioned, most Canadian provinces actually have more mineral wealth than most countries, actually. So we host the largest World Global Mining Conference every year in Toronto. It's called the Prospector and Developers Association of Canada Conference. The Toronto Stock Exchange is a major stock exchange for raising mining investment. And then I would say for countries that are really starting to get into the critical mineral space, like Pakistan, they're developing their first mines. We have a lot that we can share around mining governance. So mining can be done well or it can be done not well. And the governance frameworks that countries set up to ensure that there is full informed consultation with local community groups, indigenous groups before a mining project takes place, that there are proper environmental and social safeguards and standards around the mining practice, that communities themselves get to receive the benefits of mining royalties, and that royalties are reinvested back into infrastructure. This is also all part of what makes a country successful with its mining resource.
You're absolutely right. This is a complete ecosystem, but of course, Canada being years ahead, they have decades of experience in that. And mining governance is truly, an embed that Pakistan needs to explore with a lot of caution, with a lot of methodology. So I see a lot of potential there. Yeah. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Of course, there's going to be advice for students as well. मुझे पता है कि बहुत सारे पाकिस्तानी students ये जानना चाहते हैं कि कनाडा की यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में वो किस तरह प्रोग्राम एडमिशन ले सकते हैं, जाना कितना आसान या मुश्किल है, वीज़ा कैसे लिया जाए, बहुत सारी कॉमन गलतियां जो आप करते हैं. We'll talk about all of that right after a short break. Welcome back. After the break, आप देख रहे हैं this आज exclusive. We are in conversation with His Excellency Tariq Ali Khan, the High Commissioner of Canada to Pakistan. इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में हार्डली कोई ऐसा इंसान होगा जो ये ना कहे कि उसका कोई दोस्त, रिश्तेदार, पड़ोसी या जानने वाला कनाडा में मुकीम नहीं है. और बहुत सारे लोगों के दिल में ये ख्वाब भी है. स्टूडेंट्स चाहते हैं कि वहाँ की बेहतरीन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में तालीम हासिल करें या अपने रिश्तेदारों से मिलने के लिए ज़रूर जाएँ. तो उससे रिलेटेड कुछ सवालात हैं बाय पॉपुलर डिमांड जो हम तारिक साहब के सामने रखते हैं. तारिक साहब, वीज़ा कई लोगों का अभाम है, ख्याल है, या उनको लगता है कि कनाडा का वीज़ा बहुत मुश्किल से मिलता है. इस पे कमेंट करना चाहेंगे?
ज़रूर. Visas are obviously a really important part of what our immigration service does. We welcome Pakistani applicants across all categories of visas, and we're committed to improving the processing time and the processing procedure.
Ji.
Yeah. But I would say this. I know, of course, I hear frustration from people that have received a visa rejection. People come up to me all the time here in Pakistan. And I would just say a few things to remember if you're applying for a visa, whether it's a student visa or permanent residence or a visitor's visa.
यानी ये आपकी तरफ से सलाह होगी उन लोगों के लिए जो लोग वीज़ा के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, कॉमन गलतियां करते हैं, जिसकी वजह से या तो कभी रिजेक्शन वजह बनती है, डिलेज आ जाते हैं या मजीद क्वेरी होती है. वो क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आपने देखी हैं ज़्यादातर?
ओके, तो सबसे पहले आपकी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन जो है, जब आप अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, ये जेन्युइन डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होना ही चाहिए, राइट? सो people need to make sure they're providing the exact required documentation, and then it's real documentation. The second thing is showing, if you're going on a visit, just for a visit to Canada, you're applying for that you have sufficient ties back here in the country, and that you have sufficient funds to support your stay in the country. If money suddenly appears in your bank account one day that wasn't there before to show that you could support your stay, it will raise a question probably by the visa officer who's reviewing your file. And then I would say
खुद भरें अपनी applications को. कई दफ़ा third party agents भी होते हैं ना?
Look, we have on our Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada website, there's a link to some registered Canadian immigration providers, visa agencies. those are the only ones we recognize. And the ones that are in many countries, including here in Pakistan, many of them are fraudulent. And they could be submitting fraudulent documents on your behalf and still taking your money. So I encourage anybody applying for a visa, do it yourself, get somebody to help you. Be absolutely meticulous and honest in the documentation you're providing, including your travel history. And if you've provided everything, there's obviously you have every chance of
स्टूडेंट्स के
getting
लिए
your
कुछ
visa.
बात कर लेते हैं बिकॉज यकीनन उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा एलिमेंट ये होता है कि आपको किसी प्रोग्राम में एडमिशन मिल जाए, आपको कोई कॉलेज एक्सेप्ट कर ले. वीज़ाज़ उमूमी तौर पे आपको मिल जाते हैं, लेकिन मेरा आपसे सवाल होगा कि जो स्टूडेंट्स हायर स्टडीज़ के लिए, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट प्रोग्राम्स के लिए कनाडा पहुँचे हैं, जब वो ग्रेजुएट कर लेते हैं, क्या उनको फौरी तौर पर वतन वापस आना पड़ता है या उनके लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड इमिग्रेशन अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ होती हैं कनाडा में?
जी हाँ. तो वो डिपेंड होता है आप किस प्रोविंस, आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी कौन से प्रोविंस में है. क्योंकि हमारे प्रोविंसेस जो हैं कुछ ऐसे हैं जिनके प्रोग्राम्स हैं जिसमें आप अपने पढ़ाई, अपनी डिग्री मुकम्मल कर सकते हैं, फिर उसके बाद आपको वर्क परमिट मिल जा सकते हैं. एक साल के लिए मसला.
यानी डिपेंड करता है आपकी इंडस्ट्री क्या है, आपका प्रोविंस कौन सा है, किस काम में आपने डिग्री हासिल की है, तो पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं उसके लिए.
एब्सोल्युटली. हमारे कुछ ऐसे प्रोग्राम्स हैं जो प्रोविंशियल नॉमिनी प्रोग्राम कहलाते हैं, और ऐसे कुछ प्रोग्राम्स हैं जिसमें आप एक साल आपके वर्क एक्सपीरियंस के बाद आप अप्लाई कर सकते हैं परमानेंट रेजिडेंसी के लिए.
बिल्कुल.
But it does change every year, and we have in the last couple of years there is a reducing of the number of the intake that we're going to be taking on permanent residents. So you may see less, but it doesn't prevent you from applying. Shouldn't prevent you from applying to study, and once you're a student, it shouldn't prevent you from applying for a work permit and getting Canadian experience. We welcome it.
एक मिथ मैं आपके साथ ज़रूर क्लैरिफाई करना चाहती थी. कुछ लोगों ने ये तासुर सोशल मीडिया पे डाला हुआ है कि आप यहाँ पे क्वालिफाइड स्किल्ड प्रोफेशनल्स हो सकते हैं, आपका सालों का तजुर्बा हो सकता है, लेकिन जब वो कनाडा पहुँचते हैं तो उनकी डिग्रीज, उनकी क्वालिफिकेशंस रिकग्नाइज नहीं होती. इसकी वजह से कई हाईली स्किल्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हों, मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर्स हों, फाइनेंशियल एक्सपर्ट्स हों, वो अपनी क्वालिफिकेशन से कम जॉब्स लेने पे मजबूर हो जाते हैं. ये क्या तासुर है? और ये सिर्फ पाकिस्तानी नहीं, बहुत सारे लोग इस बात को एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं या इसका इजहार किया उन्होंने सोशल मीडिया पे.
This is obviously has been a challenge for skilled immigrants from many parts of the world, is credential recognition in their particular field or profession. It really does depend on the profession, but I think we are making progress. There is a strong focus now on credential recognition across most of our provinces and our professions. The professions themselves are governed by professional associations. So those are the ones that have to work with our provinces to ensure they're getting enough people coming into that particular profession. Their degree is being recognized. It does depend on where they were trained and where that degree is from. That makes a difference.
And I think
and the level of equivalence between where you were trained with what our standards are back in Canada. But it is definitely an issue that our government is taking seriously, and we're hoping to see more progress on.
I think that is very insightful and promising. और ख़ास तौर पे ये काम आप घर बैठे भी करें. पहले अपना होमवर्क करें कि आपकी फील्ड की क्या क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज़ हैं, कौन सी रिकग्निशंस आपको रिक्वायर्ड हैं और आपके क्रेडेंशियल्स कैसे एक्नॉलेज किए जाएंगे. बट एज वी मूविंग टूवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ दिस कॉन्वर्जेशन, आई हैव अ रैपिड फायर फॉर यू. हमें ये पता है कि आपका एक कनेक्शन पाकिस्तान से भी है, फैमिली आपकी माइग्रेट की मैनी ईयर्स अगो. तो चाय और हमारी जो सकाफ़त है, हमारी जो पसंदीदगी है, क्या उसका रंग और तासुर अभी भी मौजूद है? दैट्स व्हाट पीपल वर वेरी इंटरेस्टेड इन. तो पहला सवाल, विल गो ओवर दिस वेरी क्विकली. चाय या कॉफ़ी?
चाय या कॉफ़ी? उमूमन कॉफ़ी. पाकिस्तान आने के बाद चाय लगातार बार दूध पत्ती, कड़क दूध पत्ती 5-6 मरतबा दिन को.
क्या बात है. देखिए, जब तक हम आपका ब्लड ग्रुप में चाय नहीं आ जाएगी ना.
पेंटिंग माय टीथ नाउ. सो
अच्छा जी. और इसी तरह जब खाने पीने की बात हो, मेहमान नवाजी पाकिस्तान की कैसे पीछे रह सकती है? फेवरेट वीकेंड ब्रेकफास्ट?
Oh, weekend breakfast. Okay. Desi omelette paratha.
क्या बात है. You're a fan of paratha?
On the weekend.
ज़बरदस्त. मुझे ये बताएं कि since you grew up in Canada, spent a lot of time there, what are your fondest memories growing up in Canada?
Oh, wow. I think my fondest memories have to connect with the nature and the seasons. And that's also part of my message to students. I'm gonna say something about that. Canoeing in rivers and lakes in Canada. I grew up from a young age canoeing, and then as an adult doing canoe trips, and including even with my kids in remote parts of the country. It's an incredible way to experience Canada. I worked for years in my 20s as a tree planter. I worked in the reforestation industry, so living in bush camps in remote places, again, nature. And then the winter, and doing things like cross-country skiing at night or going out with friends, skating on the Rideau Canal where I live in Ottawa. There's lots of amazing memories that we have, but many of them connect with nature. So my message is actually, I was thinking about this, what would I advise a student going to Canada from Pakistan? And my first piece of advice would be experience nature. Get out there and discover Canada's nature. Get out beyond the cities, beyond Toronto, the Greater Toronto Area, the GTA as we call it, or wherever the city that you're studying in, and experience the nature in the country. It really is, it's unparalleled. The second thing would be experience the diversity of the country. So you're studying in this country that's full of immigrants and students from all over the world. You get this amazing opportunity to learn from different ways of being from all these different cultures. And in that, there's a little subset in that, is learn about Indigenous issues in Canada.
Yes.
We have an incredible Indigenous culture and communities ranging from First Nations to Inuit to Métis. They have amazing traditions. They have an amazing story to tell. And we're committed as Canadians to truth and reconciliation with these groups. And then my third lesson is embrace winter. People are terrified of the Canadian winter.
So in other words, pack thermals and layer up.
Look, you can buy it there, but get out of your house or your apartment, get off your phone and complaining about how cold it is or it's snowing outside, and learn to experience a winter sport or to get out into nature in the winter. Once you fall in love with it, every time it snows, it will make you incredibly happy.
I think thank you for saying that, because while you were talking about the First Nations and the culture and the geographic diversity of Canada, it brought back so many memories. Like 2 years ago, I was there on a Commonwealth Study Conference, and I had the good fortune of starting that out in Banff, then going all the way across to 10 different cities in Alberta, Toronto, of course, and Montreal. And, again, we had such meaningful interactions with community groups of the First Nation. I wish we had time enough to talk about the Truth and Reconciliation Initiative by the Canadian government, but they came with such full hearts and such amazing historical perspective and some amazing bannock to enjoy and eat over that. So those are my fond Canadian memories. लेकिन क्योंकि हम उर्दू की बात कर रहे थे और हमें इस बात की बड़ी खुशी है कि आप इतनी साफ उर्दू बोलते हैं. That allows you to connect with so many viewers as well.
गुलाबी उर्दू.
गुलाबी. मुझे बताइए, इस गुलाबी उर्दू में कोई शेर व शायरी या कोई लिटरेचर जायंट जो आपके खास पसंदीदा हो?
Oh my God. I of course grew up hearing family reciting Mirza Ghalib.
क्या बात है?
Who is of course the OG, the original gangster of Urdu poetry. I've got two couplets that I've always been fond of. खुदा के वास्ते पर्दा ना काबे से उठा जालिम, कहीं ऐसा ना हो यहाँ भी वही काफिर सनम निकले.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है. Another one by Ghalib, if I may insist.
निकल न खुल्द से आदम का सुनते आए थे, लेकिन बहुत बेआबरू होकर तेरे कूचे से हम निकले.
क्या बात है. So Ghalib, for all times, thank you so much Tariq साहब. It was an absolute pleasure and a privilege to speak to you. I know आज हमने बिल्कुल बस शुरुआत की है. I would love to see you more often come to the show and talk about the various aspects of the bilateral relations between Canada and Pakistan. As we mentioned in the very beginning, It's a friendship, it's a relationship that spans over decades and only deepening with a number of things that are shared purposes, shared dreams, and there is so much learning and potential to grow from there. इसी के साथ यकीनन ये exclusive conversation आपने देखी आज न्यूज़ पर. इसके बारे में आपके comments हो, आपकी राय हो, हम तक ज़रूर पहुँचाइएगा. We were in conversation with His Excellency Tariq Ali Khan, the High Commissioner of Canada to Pakistan. Inshallah ta'ala, with more exclusive, we'll see you soon. Take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz.